beautiful morning, everyone. Welcome to another online learning engagement. I'm your virtual teacher this morning, and join me for another virtual learning experience only here at Valenzuela Live. How are you so far? Mhm. I am glad that you are in my class again. I'm very excited today because I have a lot of information to share with you. First, allow me to present to you our most essential learning competency, and that is to employ the appropriate communicative styles for various situations: intimate, casual, conversational, consultative, and frozen. We will be developing also these following sub-skills. First is to provide words or expressions from a given situation. Second is to use the appropriate gesture, hand, face, and body. And the last one is to give the appropriate communicative styles for various situations. We will be using Module 9 with the lesson Communicative Styles written by Mr. Rolando P. Deirit of Dalandanan National High School and Mrs. Leo Ducayen from VP Trinidad National High School. You may also ask questions, and I will be willingly answer them later in the question and answer part. But be sure that you will ask or comment only which is relevant with our discussion. And always think before you click. Before we go on with our lesson, I hope you have your learning pocket in English with you and a pen and a paper for taking down notes. So are you ready? Let's begin. This time, let's take a closer look at this comic strip. What do you think is unusual with the wedding vows presented in the picture? Mm-hmm. Yes. Definitely not your typical wedding vows, right? In traditional ceremonies such as weddings, we usually follow a certain procedure and words to exchange. Situations which calls for acceptable words call for proper communicative style. And that is why today we are going to discuss the level of formality which you speak, because different situations and people call for different communicative styles. First, let us define what is communicative style. Communicative styles are the broad ways in which people tend to communicate with others. Understanding different communication styles can radically improve the quality of your relationships. That's because your level of skill in navigating difficult conversations depend on your ability to connect. Also, deciding which communicative style is appropriate depends on, first, is your audience. Second, is your topic. And the last one is the situation. The language you use when talking to your friends is not the same language you would use when meeting as someone as important like our city mayor, Mayor Rex Gatchalian. Also, always remember, class, communicative styles are used in all forms of communication, including written language, spoken language, and the last one is the sign language. Yes, you heard it right. Even in written and signed language, we use and apply communicative style. Knowing what the various styles are, how to differentiate between them, and when to use appropriate communicative style enhances our communication skills. Now, let's discuss the 5 types of communicative styles. So, I hope you are ready with your pen and paper to jot down important details. There are 5 communicative styles. Each level has an appropriate use that determined by different situations. Thus, the appropriate communicative style depends upon the audience, the topic, the purpose, and location. The first type of communication is the frozen communicative style. It is used generally in a very formal setting. It is usually uses long sentences with good grammar and vocabulary. Also, frozen communication use of language is fixed and static. Frozen style rarely or never changes. And because of that, it is called static. It is frozen in time and content, meaning it is not really going to change. And because they don't change, they sometimes include old grammar or vocabulary. Frozen communication does not require any feedback from the audience. And lastly, this kind of communication is cultural. They are usually related to religions, laws, or customs of the community. Also, it is unidirectional. They are communication that doesn't involve any back and forth communication. Here are some samples of frozen communication. First are biblical verses, prayers. Another is law or preamble, like the 1987 Constitution of the Republic of the Philippines. Another example is the SONA or the State of the Nation Address. Our president or the president of each country do this regularly. Another is our national anthem, Lupang Hinirang, or our alma mater hymn. That are all example of frozen communicative style. So again, when we say frozen communication, this type of communication is space. It doesn't change or rarely changes. Other examples are wedding ceremony, like what I have mentioned, your alma mater hymn, and the likes. The second type of communication is the formal communicative style. This kind of communication is used in speaking to medium to large groups. Also, it is used in professional and academic or legal settings. This kind of communication or language is used in formal settings and is one way in nature. So just like the frozen style, it is also unidirectional. This use of language usually follows a commonly accepted format. It is less rigid than frozen, but it is usually impersonal. It is used in professional, academic, or legal settings where communication is expected to be respectful and uninterrupted. Here, in formal communication, the speaker uses complete sentences. It avoids slang and may use technical or academic vocabulary. We avoid using slang terminologies. Uses complete sentences and words, example, have not, instead of haven't. It is likely the speaker will use less contractions. Samples of formal communicative styles are speeches, pronouncement made by judges, announcement, meetings, school lessons, and interview. A common format in this type of communication are TED Talk. The third type of communication is the consultative. People use this communication style often in conversation when they are speaking with someone who has specialized knowledge or who is offering advice. This type of communication style is very specific, and that is to get help with something. Thus, we use it whenever we consult someone. It is also used in semi-formal communication. The tone is respectful. And consultative communication Speaker does not usually plan what he wants to say, and sentences tend to be shorter and spontaneous. People use this type of conversation when speaking with someone who has specialized knowledge or who is offering advice, and the tone is often respectful. We use courtesy titles like Mr., Madam, Professor, Sir, Doctor, but it may be more casual if the relationship is long-standing or friendly, like talking to a family doctor. Slang is sometimes used and people may pause and interrupt each other. So unlike the frozen and the formal register, this is a two-way conversation that can happen between two or more persons. Here are some samples of communicative style. A teacher-student conversation, doctor to patient, expert to apprentice, and lawyer to a client. The fourth type of communication is the casual. This is the style people use when they are with friends, acquaintances, and coworkers. It is often very relaxed and focused on getting the information. Used in informal situation and language. Use of slangs, contractions, and vernacular grammar is all common. Samples are team victory celebration, birthday party, lunch, or dinner with friends. It is also the language you use when you text or chat with your friends. The bottom line is casual communication is the language you use with your friends or peers. The last type of communication is the intimate communicative style. It is completely private. Language used within family or very close friend. Use personal language codes. Grammar is unnecessary. This type of communication style usually used between two people and often in private. This is used to describe language used between persons who share a close relationship or bond. This style will take into account in certain terms of endearment. Also includes slang or expression whose meaning is shared with a small group of persons. Example of communicative styles are first, lovers having special terms of endearment like honey, babe, baby, or pangga. The other one is mother giving pet names to their children based on their character trait like ganda or pogi. And the last sample is the best friends formulating slangs based on some shared experiences. I know you have your language code with your best friends. This far, we have seen what we mean by the process of communication. But at times, even after taking care of every other detail, some misunderstandings arise. So, to eliminate these misunderstandings, we have to understand that the most common barriers to effective communication. Let us see what these barriers of communication are.
Here are the 10 barriers to effective communication. First is physical barriers. These are such things as inadequate equipment like outdated computer, phones without signal, background noise, poor lighting, temperature that is too hot or too cold, and tangible items that may interfere in effective communication. Next is your attitudes. Sometimes strong emotions like anger or sadness can take away your objectivity. Being extremely nervous, having a personal agenda, or asserting to win the argument can make communication less effective. Such interfering emotions are also called emotional noise. Third barrier is the language. Even people who speak the same language can have difficulty understanding each other because they belong to first different generation, second different regions, slang, professional jargons, and regional colloquialism are examples of these kinds of barriers. Details can overwhelm and distract the audience from the important topics or informations. Last barrier is jumping to conclusions. Making assumptions before listening to all the facts can be really problematic and may lead to ineffective communication.
I hope you understand well what are the different communication barriers. Now let's check your understanding of these communicative style. I will give you lines or examples and you need to do is to answer. I'll be giving you 10 seconds to write your answer on the comment box below. So are you ready? All right, here we go.
And the first sentence is, Honey, I'm home. What communicative style do you think this sentence belongs to? And the answer is intimate, because of the use of the term of endearment, which is honey. Next sentence is, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. From Philippians chapter 4 verse 13. This is an example of what kind of communicative style? And the answer is frozen, because this sentence is an example of a biblical verse. Third sentence, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride. And the answer, this is an example of frozen communicative style. This sentence is said during wedding ceremonies. Next, what's up? It's awesome that you came to visit. This sentence is an example of what communicative style? And the answer is casual. It uses slang and contractions. We can assume that these are two friends seeing one another. Sentence number 5. This afternoon, Imperial Senior Management Team will take you through all aspects of our business. Comment down below your answers. And this is an example of formal communicative style because we can assume that this is a formal business presentation. Next, Sir Carlo, what could be the best solution for this mathematical problem? What do you think is the answer for this sentence? This is an example of consultative. The speaker used the title sir, and we can assume that the speaker is a student asking for an advice from his or her teacher. Last one. B. I miss you. Comment down below your answers. This sentence is an example of intimate. Again, the clue is the use of endearment or a pet name, which is B.
So how many right answers did you get? I'm sure you did great. Always remember that language varies from one location to another, from one culture to another, and from one situation to another. We use different communicative styles with different communication concepts. Now that we have discussed the different communicative style, it is easier for us to determine the level of formality that a certain communicative situation needs. We can now easily know on how we are going to approach and deal with a certain person in a certain situation with a certain purpose with the correct expression and correct manner. In short, right words at the right time to the right person with the right reason. Now, if you have questions or you want to clarify something what has been discussed, you are free to type your concerns on the comment box. A minute will be given to you to send your questions, and our teacher moderator will be gathering them. Your minute starts now. Your time's up. I hope you're able to send your questions. Thank you for a teacher moderator who gathered them. I will now start reading some of your questions and answer them as well. Our first question is from Malinta National High School. How to overcome communication barriers? Communication class seems simple, doesn't it? But often people don't realize there is an issue and need to help overcoming communication barriers to be understood. The single most effective way to overcome communication obstacle is to improve your listening skills. Learning how to listen, listening more than you speak, and asking clarifying questions all contribute to a better understanding of what is being communicated. You can also learn about cultural and social differences to rise above them, as well as to discover how to minimize distractions in a non-verbal cues. I hope I had answered your question. Next question is from Valenzuela National High School. Why it is important to use appropriate communicative style when speaking with a certain person or group. Our manner of style of speaking should vary depending on the occasion, audience, subject matter, and purpose of communication. For example, class, you will not speak to your teacher the same way you speak to your classmates, right? Like, hey man, what's up? You say to your classmates. But when it comes to your teacher, you will say, good morning, ma'am. How is your day? Which means that there is proper etiquette in dealing in a certain person on his or her status in the society. And the last question is from Polo National High School. Why is communication important for survival? A very interesting question. Uh, can you imagine the world without communication, class? For the most of the people, communication is something that comes naturally and binds them together so they can live, work, share ideas together, or create something that is unique and priceless. Today, life is impossible without communication, and we should be concentrated to make communication more efficient and more natural. We are living in a world full of diversity, and we must find a formula how to lower the communication barrier that is present. It is important for us to understand that communication can mean everything. It is not restricted to the use of language only. Thank you so much for sending your questions. Those are really good ones. I'm happy that I was able to capture your interest and share new learning to you. I'm very sure that you will be able to complete the tasks in your learning packet. Allow me to give you a quick walkthrough on your activities. For the first task, you're going to answer the what's more part. You're going to read the story about students in a playground and then answer the questions that follow. The next one is the what I can do. You're going to check your communicative styles in dealing with other people. And the last one is assessment. You're going to choose the letter of the correct answer. Many thanks to our technical support teacher and our teacher moderator for their contribution in making this learning engagement possible. It's been a fruitful and engaging first quarter with you, my dear virtual learners. Thank you for always participating actively in our virtual classes. This has been Teacher Jeannie, and see you again next time for another episode of Virtual English Class, only here at Valenzuela Live, where distance is never a hindrance in learning. Stay home, stay safe, and have a happy good day. Goodbye.